How's it going, YouTube? This is Matt, the Lawn Care Little Guy, and I'm coming at you with a video to answer a question of how to balance part-time lawn care with full-time work and also a family life. So that's a great question, and the one thing that I have to disclose right away is that there is no blanket answer for this. There's no one size fits all answer for this, mainly because everybody has a different situation, different dynamics, different stressors in their life. But what I can do is I can kind of communicate to you what it is that I do, and just kind of how I think about that type of stuff, because it's not an easy thing to do. It's particularly stressful. It's like having 3 or 4 jobs at many times. So, being that I don't intend on going full time, at least not at this time. That's mainly what this video is going to be for, is for those guys that really don't have any plans of going full time. This is really relevant for that person that is really struggling to balance a full time job plus part time lawn care. So one of the things that is really important is to realize that we choose what we do with our time. Everybody has 24 hours in a day that they're going to spend. Everybody does. And we choose to do things with that time, and we choose to do different things with that time. So I choose to spend it one way, you might choose to spend it another way, and that can affect the way our family operates and also the way our business operates. So that's the number one thing that you're going to have to realize, is that if you're short of time, you have the control to change that. You have power over that. Now, that's not going to come without sacrifice, and I realize that. But that is a reality, is that everybody has the same 24 hours in a day, and we make choices. Okay, we chose to be married, we chose to have kids, we chose to work full time, and we also chose to have our business. So we're just trying to do the best that we can and utilize that time as efficiently as possible. But that's really foundational for understanding what I'm going to say after going forward. So with that in mind, the way we choose to spend that 24 hours is really based on a set of priorities that we have. And that's really important to remember your priorities when you're running a part-time business, because there's going to be a lot of conflicts. There's going to be a lot of things competing for that time, and your family is going to be one of those. And you have to decide. You have to already know how you're going to decide and how you're going to choose to spend that time, what's going to sacrifice over the other thing. And it's priorities that we set that do that. So what's my priorities? Well, I'll start from the bottom and go to the top. My lawn business supports my family, and my family supports the Lord. Okay? Another way to say that is my lawn care business exists for my family, and my family exists for the Lord. Now, there's also a 40-hour job in there, and that's just above the lawn care. And the only reason why that is because my 40-hour job is actually what makes me the most money right now, because it's full-time, and it's what puts food on the table. So my lawn care does other things to achieve my family goals, but I have to submit to the 40-hour job many a times, because I don't have control over that time unless I want to quit. But I don't intend on doing that. So I'm making a choice, right? I'm prioritizing. So it's establish priorities. And then the other thing that you got to do is you got to remember why you started the business, okay? Because one of the worst mistakes that you can make, I believe, is to overemphasize something that is not in line with those priorities. So if I say that my lawn care business is actually number 4 to my family, which is number 2, then when I make my decisions, I can't get that upside down. I've got to remember why I started it, and that's the only way I'm going to make the right decision. I started it to support my family so that my wife could come home, so my kids can go to private school, things of that nature. That's why I do it, okay? So again, the lawn business exists to support my family, not my family to support the lawn business. So whenever there's a conflict, I have to make a good decision, and I use the priorities to do that. The example that I have is tonight I had the opportunity to work late into the night, and I actually already even planned it. I spoke with my wife and we planned it, and I was going to work into the night, right? I got a painting job and then go fix a toilet, and I'm behind on the painting job, so I could really do the hours. Well, later on she came back and she said, "Oh no," she's like, "We've got Valentine's Day, right?" And we weren't even going to spend it, as a romantic thing, but on Valentine's Day we have our neighbor over. Pardon me. and my parents come over, and we do Valentine's Day then, and then me and my wife, we do something later on. Excuse me. So she told me this, and I'm like, well, goodness gracious, I've already scheduled this work. Okay, so what am I going to do? And I was kind of put out about it, but when I thought about it, if my priorities are right, then I know the decision to make already. So what did I do? I adjusted the lesser priority. So that's something that we're going to have to do is when we're balancing the part-time lawn care with full-time job and family, and we have our priorities set, more times than not, we need to sacrifice or adjust the lower priority for the sake of the higher priority. It's about getting what we want most and not what we want now. See, because I wanted to work tonight, I needed to work tonight, really. But what I want most is to be there for my family. Okay? So I chose what I want most over what I want now. So then, that's the basic gist of it. But so how do I deal with the high times, right? Because sometimes we have high times where we're just overloaded, and we do that to ourselves. We make that decision to do that. So how do we deal with that when we get kind of overwhelmed and there's just too much to do? Well, there's a number of things that we can do about that. But one of the things that we really need to keep in mind is, why are we overworked? Why are we overwhelmed with this work? As part-time business owners, why are we overworked? Is it because we just couldn't say no? Was the money too tempting? Is it, we got a really demanding customer. What is it? We have to answer that. Why are we overworked? Because we don't continually want to put ourselves in that spot where we're stressed out. One of my early folks that I would listen to is Geek to Freak Lawn Care. And one of the things that he taught me was, it's important to enjoy your business. It's important to enjoy working it. So we don't want it to be so overcome and burdensome, which is easy to do when you're doing part-time lawn care and working full-time. I'm going to say that over and over again because that's really what this video is about. But it's important to enjoy it. So if we feel overwhelmed, then we have to make some adjustments there. We have to make better decisions about how we're spending our time, okay? Unless you enjoy being overworked. But here's the thing. Being overworked and overwhelmed is great for the short term. Sometimes it's going to happen in a certain season, and we should actually see those times coming. Like for me, I do a lot of extra services like aerating and dethatching and things like that. But I don't have time for that in the heaviest mowing part of the year. So what happens with me is I get kind of overwhelmed with that, and I end up working 7 days a week, and that's okay for a short term, but it's unsustainable for the long term. So we've got to have an exit plan when it comes to that, and that's what I try to do. I try to plan my workout and just know when those times are going to be, and then just mentally preparing myself for that, preparing my family for that, because my wife does an amazing job of supporting me in this, and I couldn't do it without her. And that's another thing too. The only way to balance it is if you're married, is if your spouse is on board with it, because that's the worst thing in the world, to have to come home and then just really feel like you're not in it together, and you don't have support. Because then, at least for me, according to my priorities, I couldn't do it anymore if my wife didn't support me. So she's willing to accept small times, but on the long term, it's unsustainable. So you ought not overwork yourself, and you need time off. That's important. Which leads me to the second or another thing is scheduling your time off. Okay, that'll really, really help. Schedule your time off, make yourself stick to it. And why is that important? Because you can't say no if you're always available. Okay, you can't say no to work you shouldn't take unless you can't say no if you're always available. Okay, so you schedule your time off. It's important, and you need it to rest, because it's not easy work that we do, especially in the hot times of the summer. So that's basically the gist of it. There's so much more to this subject, and like I said, everybody's situation is different, but priorities is what it comes down to. If you've established priorities and you know when to say yes, know when to say no, understand that working yourself into the dirt is not going to work for the long term, and knowing that right off the bat, then that'll help out a lot. And keeping your priorities straight, always making the lesser priority adjust before the higher priority. And the only way to do that is to is to remember the reason. Remember the reason why you're even doing the business in the first place. So keep that at the forefront. Make good decisions that are going to achieve the goals that you've already set out. And I think that you'll be happier. I think that you'll be less stressed. I think all around is just a better way to do it. Now, it's a slow growth. It's hard to build a business to something really big without working yourself into the dirt, without saying yes to everything, without a certain disregard for other things in your life. And I'm not saying that people that do it full time are somehow insensitive to the people around them, their spouses or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is that as a part-time person that has chosen to balance that with full-time work, we got to do things differently than the person that's full-time, and that requires doing the things that I've talked about in this video. So keep your priorities right, make good decisions, and everything should be okay. So anyways, I hope this video is okay. I've recorded it a couple times, trying to keep it condensed, try to keep in the message clear. I'm not the best in the camera, but I'm okay with that, if you're okay with that. And I really hope that I get some comments to hear what you guys think about what I said. I'm willing to answer more questions. So if you have a channel, it would be great if you shared this on your channel. I didn't intend on making a big YouTube thing or anything like that, but I've got 4 whole subscribers now, and I'm really happy about that. And I just want to be there for you guys. You guys have given me a reason to make a video, and I appreciate you guys letting me share with you. So thank you so much, and comment, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll talk to you later.